John was a simple man. Every day, he woke up at 7 a.m., ate the same breakfast, a slice of toast with butter and a cup of black coffee, and went to his office job. His life was structured, predictable, and safe, but it was also monotonous, devoid of excitement or adventure. Sometimes, when he sat alone in his small apartment at night, he wondered what life could have been if he had made different choices. What if he had been braver? What if he had taken risks? But these thoughts never lasted long. He always pushed them aside, convincing himself that change was too difficult, too uncertain. So he continued his routine, day after day, year after year. One evening, as he walked home from work, his hands deep in his coat pockets, he noticed something unusual. Near a small shop lying on the pavement was a strange black device. It was small, about the size of a remote control, with a screen and a single button in the center. Curious, John bent down and picked it up. The moment his fingers touched the surface, the screen lit up with a simple message: choose a different path. He frowned. Was this some kind of prank? A marketing gimmick? He glanced around, but the street was empty. The device felt solid and real in his hand. His curiosity grew. He hesitated for a moment, then pressed the button. The world around him shifted instantly. He was no longer in his office clothes. Instead, he wore a sports uniform, the fabric damp with sweat. A deafening cheer erupted around him. Blinking in confusion, he looked around and realized he was standing on a football field. A massive stadium surrounded him, filled with fans chanting his name. "Good job, John! You're the best player out there!" A teammate patted his shoulder, grinning. John's heart pounded. He had never played professional football in his life. But then a memory surfaced, one he had buried long ago. In high school, he had loved football. He had dreamed of joining the team, but fear of failure held him back. Now, here he was, living the life he could have had if he had been brave enough to take that step. Before he could process the moment, the device beeped in his pocket. He pulled it out and saw a new message: press to continue. His fingers trembled as he pressed the button again. This time, he found himself in a professional kitchen. He was dressed in a crisp white chef's jacket, holding a sharp knife in his hand. The rich aroma of spices and sizzling food filled the air. A waiter approached him, a broad smile on his face. "Chef John, the customers love your new dish. They're asking for the recipe." John's breath caught. Cooking had always been his passion. He had spent countless nights experimenting in his small kitchen, but he never pursued it professionally. He had told himself that being a chef was too risky, that he needed the stability of his office job. But here, in this reality, he had taken the risk, and he was thriving. The device beeped again. Another choice. This time, he was in a large classroom, standing in front of a group of students. He held a marker, writing equations on a whiteboard. A young student raised his hand, looking at him with eager eyes. "Professor John, can you explain that again?" John's mouth went dry. A professor? Teaching had always fascinated him, but he never felt smart enough. He had convinced himself that he wouldn't be good at it. But in this reality, he had believed in himself, and he had succeeded. The device continued to transport him through different lives. He became a traveler, exploring ancient ruins and bustling cities. He was a musician, standing on a grand stage, playing his heart out for thousands. He was a writer, signing copies of his best-selling novel while fans lined up to meet him. Each time, he realized these weren't just random lives. They were all versions of himself that could have existed if he had dared to follow his dreams. Then, suddenly, he was back on the street, standing in front of his office building. The device was still in his hand, but now the screen was blank. The air was cold, the city lights flickering in the distance. John stared at the office entrance. For years, he had walked through those doors without question, believing it was his only option. But now he knew the truth. The only thing stopping him from living the life he wanted was fear. He had always chosen the safe path, mistaking safety for happiness. Taking a deep breath, he slipped the device into his pocket. He didn't need it anymore. He didn't need to see other versions of himself to know that change was possible. The next morning, he made a decision. He quit his job. He enrolled in a cooking class, he joined a local football team, he dusted off an old notebook and began writing again. For the first time in his life, he was choosing adventure over comfort, passion over fear. He didn't know if he would succeed, But he finally understood one simple truth. To truly live, he had to take risks. And as he stepped into the unknown, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. He felt alive.